So yesterday we looked at our course overview. Okay. So what we covered yesterday was what is this course all about? What is it that we are going to cover? What can you expect from the course? So yesterday we had basically how this training has been prepared. Now today on our day two, we'll look at history of. Okay, so before we start talking, uh, what a BA does, what are roles and responsibilities of BA, what are the different skill sets that are needed as BA, how the IT industry is structured, what are the different sets of people that are involved on day-to-day development work, what techniques will you use as BA. So before we go into all those details, let's try and understand how this role of BA was created in first place. Okay, so in the earlier days, development was pretty simple. Okay, so building software was relatively a simple activity, was a straightforward activity. And why I'm saying it was a straightforward activity, simply because simply because all one had to do was the client would interact with developers. Okay, there was no concept of BA. It was the coding team, people who would create the application, people who would write the code for the application. So client, whatever they need, they would directly tell the developers based on client input, they will create the application or the software. Okay. So things were pretty simple. No business analyst as of now, only developers and client. So what happens over here is next phase was client would communicate their requirement to developers, and developers will write code to create application accordingly. Okay, now what was the problem with this model was, I mean, it's not that the software was not getting created, but there were certain problems with the code, with the application being built actually. So what happened is, when you talk to a developer, they are more focused on writing code than thinking about the aspects such as making the application user friendly. Okay, so what is meant by user friendly, that when people look at your application, they should find it easy to use. Okay, so user friendly is something that people find easy to use. But when developers were talking to client, they were building applications which were not relatively easy to use, because their focus was on writing code and not on deciding or ensuring that the application that they are building is easy to use. Not being able to make the application user friendly. They lack the business vision. Okay. Not every time when you build a product or when you create a product, you always have to think about the future as well. You just don't build the product keeping in mind the current position. Suppose today you are going to create a software, and let's say you are going to build an e-commerce application. Suppose today 100 people may be using that e-commerce application, but you don't want only 100 people to use the application every time. In future, maybe you want 1 lakh people to use. Maybe you want 10 lakh people to use. So with that in mind, you should always keep an eye on the future, that what is it, how my application should be able to handle data or traffic in future as well. So developers lack that business vision, how to build applications to ensure that they are able to handle data or traffic for future as well. Now, obviously, another thing was lack of documentation. So when you build a software, or whenever you order, for example, in our day-to-day life, when you order a washing machine or when you order a television set, what happens is you get the washing machine unit or you get the television unit. Along with that, you get a user manual or a user guide that tells how to use that electronic machine. Okay. Even with mobiles also that we order, we get a uh, we get a user guide or a user manual that tells us what are the different features and functions of the phone. Now when developers were building this software, they lacked this documentation. Since their main focus was on building the software or writing the code, there was less focus on documentation. So what happens is, when you don't create documents, when you don't create documents, in future, when you retire, the other person finds it difficult to analyze the software or identify what changes are needed in the software. Okay, because there is no document around how the software was built. So now actually, all these problems led to people thinking on how to solve this problem. Okay. Normally, every business that is started, they want to grow. Okay. No one starts business for being small scale one. Everyone wants to become a large company. Everyone wants to make lot of profits. So when businesses are growing, they think that accordingly our IT should also grow, and our interaction with IT should be seamless. Okay. So now this led to people thinking that what can we do to ensure that our softwares that are being created, one, they are user friendly, that our softwares are user friendly, that our softwares are created by keeping future business vision in mind as well, that all the software that is created, they have proper documentation also. Okay. And that there is someone who can interact with the client in the normal language. See, developers or testers or anyone in the IT team in those days, they were mainly focusing on technical terms. Okay. That tell me how to write code, what requirement do you need to write code. But clients, they may not understand so much about code as such, because they have a business vision in mind. For example, I want to create a e-commerce application or e-commerce website. but they may not know how many features should be there in e-commerce application. Okay, so let me show you, for example, how does Amazon or okay. So for example, a client may know that I want to build an e-commerce application where I can offer my dealers or sellers to sell products online. But they may not know how to create this website. What should be the different elements of this website? That we should have a search bar, that we should have sign in options, that there should be a cart, that there should be sub menus over here. Okay, so that is where developers will ask them, tell me exact requirement what you want, and client may not know about the exact requirement. So they needed someone who can talk to client in day-to-day language, in normal business terms, and then convert that normal requirement into technical requirement so that developers can work on it. Okay. Now, when this problem was being discussed, people thought that let's have a client facing person who can understand the language of client, that is your regular conversations, and convert that into okay. Now this person was named as business analyst. Okay, because as business analyst, your focus is on business part. Okay? Interact with client, understand what client wants, get details from client on what all vision they have in mind, how they want their product to look like in future. Okay, you do all that, you take all that input from the client. On top of taking inputs, you take inputs from the client. On top of input, you analyze what is beneficial. Okay, so client may tell you to build 100 things, but all 100 things may not be relevant or important. So you do some analysis. So for example, for doing analysis, what we typically do in IT is we read about the industry online and talk to seniors or other people in our team. Okay, and once you are done with analysis, then keep the relevant requirements only. So in future, as we go through the classes, we will we'll get into more details of how do you take input from the client. Okay, how do you initiate your conversation in the client? As at this moment, I have just listed out the high level activity, that what is being done over here. Okay, high level activity. But in coming classes, we'll go in detail on how do you initiate conversations with the client, how do you talk to the client, and how do you get more inputs from them. And that after taking inputs, how do you do the analysis, and post analysis, how do you keep the relevant requirements. And since we said one of the key, when business analyst was not there, there was lack of documentation. So when you identify the requirements, then what you do is you document these requirements. Okay. So now we have someone who can talk to client in regular language and not in technical terms, we have someone who is creating documentations. We have someone who has kept future vision in mind and who is also ensuring that we are building user friendly. User friendly means easy to use applications. Okay. So far, any questions, guys? I hope you all are able to follow along. Okay. So then moving on to the next part, let's quickly discuss now that role of BA was created, what a business analyst will typically do on a day-to-day basis. Okay. So that is our roles and responsibilities on day-to-day basis. But before we get over there, I want some input from you guys, since you guys would have done some research. Okay, I'm assuming that you guys would have done some research in trying to identify what a business analyst does. So during your research, what did you people come across? Okay, what did you understand that a business analyst has to do, or what is their role and responsibility in the IT industry?
So the BA has a direct contact with the client, and he is a person who gets the requirement, and he is the person who gives, and he sorts out the thing, and he gives an what to say. He gives an idea of how it will work, and how does it work. So that is the main role of the business analyst.
Okay, good. Anyone who has any other idea?
Mm. Business analyst, he communicate with the client, and from there he takes the requirements, and same he sends that to the coding people, how to do with the software coding.
Okay, good. Meets with client. So this is pretty much your what you people will be doing as business analyst, but this is only your 50% of the role. Okay. So typically what we see, but let's get into a little more detail on what a business analyst will do on a day-to-day basis. Okay. So first thing is, as a business analyst, one should have good knowledge of the subject. So what is this subject? Suppose you are working for a banking client. Okay. Then you should have good knowledge on banking industry. If your client is from banking domain, then before interacting with client, you should know some of the basics of banking industry. Now, no one expects a business analyst, even as a business analyst also, one is not expected to be an expert on banking domain. Okay, there we have SMEs, subject matter experts, who are truly an experts on banking domain. But as business analysts, before initiating any conversations with client, we should understand, if client is part of banking domain, then what banking industry works like. Okay. Second is about client organization. that what is that organization doing, what is their vision, for how long they have been there into the banking domain, okay, or if they are a startup, how they want to scale further, what is their unique idea, how are they trying to sell their products to customers. So you should have these two basic set of knowledge. One, whatever industry your client is part of, have some knowledge about that industry. Two, how does the client organization work. Okay, so we all start with knowledge. Now, in order to build knowledge, what you can do is, again, what we discussed over here, read about it online or talk to other people in your team. Okay, so one of the simplest way of gathering input. See, the only idea is if you go unprepared in front of client may think that this person doesn't know anything. They may not have confidence in you. So we don't want such things to happen. What we want is we want client to feel comfortable. We want to demonstrate to the client that we are the experts. We truly know how to do the work. So that's why it is always essential to do the background work. Now once you have the information, then you set up your meetings with client. Okay, and then we will look at something called as elicitation techniques as part of this course, that you use any of the, so elicitation techniques is actually methods of drawing out opinions slash information from the client. Okay, so we will look at some of the more commonly used around 9 to 10 elicitation techniques that as a business analyst you will be generally using to get more information from the client. So why? Because clients, they mainly come up with ideas, okay, and they may not know how to document those ideas or how to connect different dots in the ideas. So as business analyst, we use one of the elicitation technique, or maybe more than one elicitation technique that we feel is relevant. Okay, so we use the elicitation technique, we get more information from the client, and then once you get more information from the client, then what we do is we do some analysis on top of the information. Okay, client can give us 100 information, but we need to analyze and identify what information is relevant. Analysis on top of information shared by client. Okay, so this information is usually, we'll term it as requirements. Okay, now once you do the analysis, you come with the requirements that are truly needed. On top of this, we apply certain techniques, and again we will look at these techniques in details on in further down the course. How do we sort these requirements and add priority to it? A simple example would be, suppose you guys are trying to order something online. Okay, so let me open this Amazon. Now suppose I'm trying to order this particular phone. Okay, now I cannot add or order this phone, or I cannot go to payment page unless I click on add to cart or buy now. So if I click on buy now, the first thing it asks me is you should sign in. Only when you sign in, you will be able to add items to the cart, or you will be able to buy. Okay, so we should log in. After login, what we can do, guys, suppose if you place an order, add items to cart, Once you added items to cart, then add address. Okay, they should know where we are going to deliver, where we need to deliver the item. Once you add address, and if that address is deliverable, then they redirect you to payment page. Okay, so this is the order. Now suppose you cannot have payment unless you added an address, and you cannot add address unless you have logged in and there are some items on your cart. Okay, so this is what is your requirement sorting and priority, that each requirement should follow a proper order. You cannot directly jump from login to payment, because the website or the application needs to know what is the value of item, then only they can redirect you to payment. If you don't have any item in the cart, how can they move you to payment page? So this is a particular logical flow that needs to happen so that you can buy an order, so you can buy an item. So this we will discuss through requirement sorting and prioritization. The idea as a business analyst is not just to get requirements, but on top of these requirements, how do we ensure that we create a proper logical flow? That is your sorting and priority techniques. Okay, then at the end of it all, now you document and communicate requirements. Okay, so communicate requirement could be to your technical team, to your client as well, and coordinate with client to get sign off. Okay, we need to tell the client that what all requirements we have written. Suppose we have written requirement like user will log in, how user will log in, how user will add items, how user will add address, and how user will make payment. So once we give document all this and present it to client, then we need to coordinate with client to get sign off. Okay, any questions so far on this one, guys? Now, along with these activities, there will be various smaller things that you guys will be doing. For example, uh, like speaking in general purpose language, explaining the requirements to technical team and clarifying their doubts, so that technical team knows exactly what is expected and they can build a software accordingly. Okay, then when you when for testing to begin, okay, we will look at SDLC process, software development life cycle, that once you have written a code to create a software, you need to test it also. Okay, so there is a tester or a QA person, quality assurance guy, who is doing this testing. So for testing, they prepare certain scenarios, okay, that they will be testing the code against. So those scenarios, you as business analyst need to review those scenarios. So what do I mean by the scenarios? To give you guys an example, suppose we are trying to build a voting system. This voting system will generate the voter ID cards. Okay. Now, what could be your requirement for identifying someone who is eligible to vote? Okay, what is our criteria? One, the person should be 18 years and above. Number two, the person should be an Indian citizen. Number three, that your name should be part of the state population. Okay, you cannot say that you are staying in let's say Telangana or Andhra, but you want to vote in Delhi, or you want to vote in some other state, whereas your home state is a different one. Okay, so we ensure that your name appears in the list as well. So these three could be your major criterias for building a system that identifies whether a person is eligible for vote or not. Now, what QA persons will do is they will create different scenarios. Okay, so they will say that, let's say there is a person A whose age is less than 18 years. Okay, let's say there is a person whose age is equal to 18 years, and there is another person whose age is greater than 18 years. Plus Indian, plus name is, I would say, in the list. Here I would say not Indian. Okay, so your tester can create different scenarios like this, that I will do testing of the code or the application based on these scenarios. Okay, so as a business analyst, you need to review these scenarios, and not just review, you need to give your feedback as well. That suppose if you think a particular scenario is irrelevant, then you can ask that the QA, quality assurance person, to remove that scenario. If you think that certain scenarios are not added which should be added, then you should recommend them on what they need to add to the test cases. Okay, so that is another activity that you people will be doing, that is reviewing the test case. Now, once you reviewed the test case and the QA has executed the test scenarios, they will capture results, that this is as of now only the scenario what I am going to test. Once you execute these scenarios, there will be certain results. Okay, so you need to capture those results as well. For example, in this case, my result could be not eligible, isn't it? We are saying it should be 18 years and above, whereas person's age is less than 18 years. So we got the result as not eligible. Here also not eligible. Why? Because name is not in the list. Now, what do you guys think? We should get a result over here.
Eligible.
Yes. So similarly, for other two scenarios also, QA person will capture the results and they will create a document that is called as test results. Okay, so first we review test cases, then once the test cases are executed, then we review the test results. Okay, and then at the end of it, we, as and when we are reviewing, we share that document with client as well. Okay, so initially when we review the test cases and we are okay with the test case, we share the test cases with client saying that these are the scenarios we are going to test. Once the results are ready, once you have reviewed the results, then we share the test results also with the client, that these are the results that we got, or that we have captured after we have executed the test cases. Okay, so that now client can look at how my application is behaving, and then accordingly they can again provide sign off. Any questions so far, guys? Yes. What a business analyst typically does. So this is where you will be spending majority of your efforts. Okay. Now there will be some things here and there that may be assigned to you as additional work, but that is more on ad hoc basis or on ad hoc nature. But majority of your effort, I would say around 80 to 90% of your daily effort will be around these activities. So these will be your primary roles and responsibilities. Any questions? Okay, if no questions, let's move forward. Now we kept saying that this entire discussion is focused on requirements. Okay, so what is this requirement basically, and how this requirement actually helps us achieve our goals? Okay, so requirement is basically any piece of ask that is, when fulfilled, creates helps create a working software. Okay, requirement is any ask that is, when fulfilled, helps in creating a working software. Okay, for example, a client can ask you that help me create a search bar in my e-commerce application. Okay, this could be your one of the requirements. Now when you fulfill this requirement, what happens is, at the end we get this search bar over here. Okay, in this search bar you can type in whatever you want to buy. So suppose if I type in some random words, it will it will show me accordingly the appropriate results. Okay, if I type in the appropriate category as well, suppose I want to buy uh, mobile phones. and once I click on search button, it shows me the appropriate results that I can review and click on by. Similarly, if there is nothing that is found in this case, it should show me no results found for that particular product. Okay, so this is how typically my search bar is working. I can type in something. When I am typing something, it can show me a drop down that you can select from the drop down. Once I am done typing, I can click on search button. Okay, so this is typically what you guys will see as smaller pieces of requirements in IT industry, and especially in service based companies. You are not going to build the entire application on your own. There will be lot of people working in tandem with you. Okay, so you will be given one small piece, someone else will be working on another piece, someone else will be working on another piece. Together all of you will be trying to create that bigger software or the bigger picture. Okay, so these smaller things, creating search bar, payment option, ability to add address, ability to log in, ability to register, these smaller things, they act as your requirements. Okay, that needs to be fulfilled. Now broadly in IT industry, we classify requirements as functional versus non-functional. Okay, so what is meant by functional and what is meant by non-functional, we'll quickly understand these two topics for the day, and then we will stop for any questions. Suppose, what is functional? Suppose this is my cursor. Okay, I take my cursor to internet edge and I click on it. So when I'm clicking on Microsoft Edge, what am I expecting? I am expecting that Edge browser should open. When I click on this plus button, what is my expectation? That a new tab should open. Okay. Similarly, in this search bar, what is it that I am expecting? I am expecting I should be able to type in something over here. Okay. So every option that I see on my screen is there with a particular intention. Okay, every item has a requirement. So like plus means create a new tab, this cross means close the tab, this cross button means close the entire application itself. Okay, so these things are termed as functional requirements. So functional requirements are requirements that help achieve a business objective. Then what is non-functional requirement? Non-functional requirement is, suppose I open Microsoft Edge and then I start typing something. Uh, let's say that I search for Vivek Ramaswamy, and you see the results were not displayed immediately. When I clicked on search, it took some time to load. Okay, so you saw there was a white page that was shown temporarily. So that time is actually, it took some time to load the page. Now imagine the results were showed in, let's say, 1 second. Currently the results were showed in 1 second, so I'm okay. But what if instead of 1 second, if it would have taken 10 seconds? Okay, that means your website is slow. Okay, So when things are slow, what usually happens, we don't try and spend more time on it. We get frustrated that we are searching for something and it is very slow, it is taking time to load. So when it is taking time to load, then we become little bit frustrated. So the amount of time taken to load a page is not a business requirement. Okay, client may not know how much time it should take to load a page, but it is more of a non-functional requirement, non-functional aspect, that how do we ensure that our web page loads quickly, it is not taking 10 seconds or 20 seconds. Then security, along with time, security aspect, isn't it? We have our payment information added or stored on Amazon. We don't want anyone to hack Amazon's system. Otherwise, they will get access to our payment, our credit cards, debit card information. So we don't want that to happen. So these security aspects, how much time some certain things take, these are termed as your non-functional requirements. Okay, requirements that are not solving a business purpose, but are enhancing your experience. So when time taken is smaller, you will like the product, that everything loads so fast. When application is secure, you can confidently save your data in that application. Otherwise, you will always think that what if someone hacks the application? So that is your non-functional requirement, and that is what we try to categorize whenever we capture a requirement, whether that requirement is functional in nature, whether that requirement solves any business purpose or objective, or whether that requirement is non-functional in nature, whether that is helping us achieve additional layer of user friendliness or security or timeliness into our business objective. Okay, now these non-functional requirements are also termed sometimes as technical requirements. Okay, now for these functional requirements, you can certainly interact with client and get information. For these non-functional requirements, your client may not have all the information. Okay, understand that client is not a technical person. Client is just like they have a business idea inside their head, so they may not know everything. So you may have to discuss with your technical team or with your seniors as well. Okay, so your technical team could be your developers, architects. These all people could be part of your technical team, so you can have a discussion with your technical team and identify how much time our web page should take to load, what security protocol can we use, how do we ensure, how do we prevent hacking onto our system, how do we make it much more secure. So you can discuss all these aspects with your technical team and your seniors as well. Naturally, when we are new to the team, we may not know everything. Okay, and it's okay, unless we are willing to learn, we will never know also. But we should not let anyone have a false impression that we know everything and that we can deliver everything. So we can discuss with our seniors on what should be done in these cases. Okay, going forward in future classes, what we are going to discuss in detail is how do we capture these requirements, how do we capture functional requirements versus non-functional requirements, and how do we document these different aspects. Any questions so far, guys? Are you all able to follow along?
Yes, we were.
Okay, so tomorrow we'll briefly cover few of the generally used terms. Okay, what are the commonly used terms in IT industry and what do those terms mean? And then we will also discuss about what are some of the skill sets that are needed as a business analyst. See, we are saying that you need to do all these activities. Okay, we documented all these list of activities, but naturally, in order to accomplish your role or work as business analyst, or in order to fulfill these roles and responsibilities, there are certain skills that are needed. Okay, and we as business analysts need to know what are those skills or competencies that are required, so that we can work on it over time to acquire those skills. So tomorrow, during the second part of our discussion, let's discuss on what are the skills that are needed as BA or business analyst. And so first part we will discuss commonly used terms, and the second part would be on skills slash competencies that are required as a business analyst. Okay, and some of the common ways on how you can acquire them. So far, guys, do you have any questions with respect to what we covered yesterday, like the course overview, the training programs, or the topics that we covered today, how the role of business analyst came into IT industry, what a business analyst does on day-to-day basis? Okay, so I assume silence means no question, but this is what or this is how the general training would be structured in our case also. Okay, so we'll try to provide first 5 minutes for reviewing or clarifying doubts from previous session, then have 50 minutes of discussion on the current day's topic, and then again 5 to 10 minutes towards the end for clarifying any doubts or questions. So again, if you guys don't have any questions for today, we can meet tomorrow at the same time for the day third of our demo.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for your time.